Let's start today by coming into a seated position. Bring your hands to heart center. Close your eyes and wiggle your spine around a little bit, trying to just get the, I don't know, I'm thinking for myself, like the creakiness. Just move a little bit, wiggle your spine tall, and take a couple of breaths. With your eyes closed, take a moment and notice what the quality of the day is, what the air is like, what the weather's like, the temperature. Whether it's daytime or nighttime. Feeling that we're in the waning moon. And now take a moment and dedicate your practice to either world peace, which is always a great choice, or to someone who needs some love, needs some healing. And that someone can be dead or alive. So even the dead still benefit and are helped by our prayers, our engagement. And now let's sound 3 ohms. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Ah. Relax your hands down. And we're going to start by bringing the bottoms of our feet together about 2 hands length away from our groin. It's like our collective. Yeah. But come back onto your elbows. And we start here with our head off the yoga mat. If it's okay for your neck, drop your head back. If you can't handle that, or you can only handle it for a little bit, or if it only goes for a while, you can always bring your chin back to your chest. And about halfway through the pose, we will come all the way down to the ground. So if you need to do that before I cue you to, feel free. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh out. So today I want to talk a little bit about the archetype of Sagittarius. And when we talk about the archetype of Sagittarius, we're also talking about its planetary ruler, Jupiter. And for your astrology nerds, we're also talking about the 9th house. So this archetype is all about expansion, about growth. So let your knees drop out. Feel your heart open. Reminding yourself to soften into the pose. Allow your breath to be natural. Sarah Powers also talks about how you can do a gentle Ujjayi breath, which is so lovely for a Sagittarius class. the victorious breath. And that's where you just lightly engage, you constrict the muscles in your throat as if you're about to do a stage whisper. And in vinyasa, in yang, you get this noisy, loud breath. But in the yin, you want to think it's engaged, but it's not loud. You can engage your root lock, your mula bandha, by lifting your perineum up just lightly, like you're using the amount of strength that you'd use your fingers to close a petal of flowers, all the petals. All right, let your elbows slide out to the side and come lying onto your back, and take your hands into this triple diamond mudra. So you have your thumb and your index fingers touching, and then you're going to slide your hands right where the ground and your head meet. So you don't have to lift up your head or anything. And there's a little bit of effort as you stretch your fingers out. So, archetype of Sagittarius and Jupiter. We've got, it's beautiful because we see this archetype through so many different eyes, from different places, from different perspective, different mythologies. And we have the centaur, the half man, half horse. The archer can be the same. The centaur is the archer. But then we also have in the Jupiter part of it, there is, all wise kings, or this wise teacher, far-sighted teacher. And of course, all the stories of the god Jupiter and of Zeus. And I'm sure the beautiful truth of archetypes is that there are stories from other people, that like other indigenous tribes, that would fit into this archetype. I just don't know them. So we want to remember that whenever we're exploring archetypes, that's part of what makes it a living, full-bodied being of an idea, is that there are parts of it that have still yet to be discovered or told or shared. So as I talk about the archetype of Sagittarius today, I'm just going to find but a mere sliver of the archetype, a little flavor, but it's one that you can carry with you, and you'll find that you'll start to recognize archetypes out in the world once you start talking about them, once you start getting to know them. Now you're going to lift up your feet. Find that there's a magical oval, pointed oval between the soles of your feet. Stretch your arms up like you're going to dive up into the stars, and rock forward as if you're aiming down into that hole. And we're going to take our selves to our knees. And this time we're going to start with the left knee in front, right knee behind. And just kind of cuddle and wiggle your knees together. Beautiful. And then sit back onto your butt. Even if your left knee comes way up, that's totally okay. And you can even take your hands next to your hips and just slide your booty back. So you're tilting your pelvis a little bit. And then start to bow forward, letting yourself drape over your knee. Or maybe it's just your chin to your chest. Or maybe you can even bring your chest to your knee. Take a couple moments to kind of wiggle, make the small adjustments, and then find the right shape for you today and soften into the pose. So as one explores astrology and learns about the different archetypes, you kind of get to know the archetypes first through their stereotypes, and nearly as if you get to know them through their elevator pitch. And Sagittarius, the archetype is always about this expansion, but particularly the expansion of the mind. So higher education, occult studies, like university more than school, like elementary school. And the archetypes that are often the characters that are ascribed to Sagittarius. Of course, I'm only remembering two, is the student, the pilgrim, and the philosopher. So we can see how the student is the ever going on kind of adventures of mind. The pilgrim is actually following the highest calling and going that path, walking that path, literally going there. Oh, it was gypsy. Totally was gypsy. Thank you. And the philosopher is the one that can go with the mind on and on and on, as we know and love philosophers in our life. So the archetype is the gypsy who physically wanders around, the student who studies, and the philosopher who philosophizes. Now you're probably feeling a little bit of fire as we come into the very end of this not so comfortable pose. Now start to take your hands and walk your hands back towards you. Roll up your chest, and you're going to sweep your left leg all the way behind you. Stretch your toes forward. You want your knee, you might have to adjust, but your knee is about like 30 degrees, 40 degrees out to the side. So it's a little bit off to the right side of your right hip. And then just walk your arms forward, bringing your forehead down to the ground, stretching your toes. And breathe in and relax into sleeping swan. So with every posture, find a moment just to commit to staying in the pose. There for the process, for the journey. So one of the areas, again, that Sagittarius is rules, as they say, is that we are to have faith. And it really, faith can go in two directions. It can be this living, trusting, collaborative effort in the world. It's like faith in the goodness of the world and the right and the justice and the life and the love and light. But we can also have it like at the shadow side of that would be being dogmatic, where you just rely on a set of rules without actually digesting and understanding how the rules really apply. And in the Sagittarian archetype, you can go in both directions. So one of the elements that we want to wake up to in the Sagittarius archetype is finding, like, okay, what is that guiding principle? What is it that one has faith in? Where do you discover the natural law? How do you hold it and teach it? Feel as you stay in the posture how it becomes more intense, you're more full of feeling. Take 5 more full deep breaths. After your 5th breath, start to roll up. And then rock onto your right buttocks. Ta-da! And you start to just walk your hands forward. Let your head soften down towards the ground. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. So we first meet fire in the zodiac through Aries, Mars and Aries. And this is really this fire of initiation, the beginning of something. And the rawness of Mars really can be such a powerful force that kind of pulls us along kind of below our consciousness. And so we act and then realize we acted or did something, or would be a very Aries kind of way to experience fire. And then we move from the initiative, like just the will part of fire, its introduction in Aries. We move through an earth sign to an air sign, through a water sign, Cancer. And then we come to Leo fire, which is this fire of the heart and fire of the feelings. And ultimately, this beautiful, expression of firing up the feelings in other people, inspiring people to be themselves, I think is like the pinnacle of Leo fire. And then we move again through the different elements. We move through earth, through air, through water, and then we come to the fire of Sagittarius after Scorpio. And this fire is a fire of our thinking. And it ignites this like passion in pursuing the highest nature of thought, the highest ideal of something. Fire moves up, and we literally see it in the Aries come through the groin, come through the sexual organs, and then move up through Leo and the heart. And then Sagittarius, it's this expansive, you can nearly imagine light coming out of someone's head, flames coming out of someone's head that aren't burning them up. And to couple together that image with this idea of faith, for me, it's nearly maybe even that higher expression still, where faith is about thinking with your heart. And now slowly roll up and just, do a little dance, maybe make some extra arm movements, throw in some eurythmy, I don't know, a bow and arrow, and then twist over your beautiful left leg and drop your head down. Let your elbows get heavy and soften into the hamstring stretch here. We can have thinking that is like pedantic, like that's very dry, going from like one physical thing to the next physical thing to the next. Or you can have thinking that actually, through discipline and concentration, you can really pursue thinking and lead the passion of thinking to insight, to something you didn't know or understand before, to a new place. And when a human being discovers their own thinking as part of their capacity of how to interact with the archetypal world, it is if then thinking becomes this fiery, freeing activity. We don't need to be told what to think. We have the capacity to think, to understand, to see reality, the world around us, natural law. And when we recognize that as part of the flame of our soul, we can't unrecognize it. A little bit like putting the toothpaste back into the toothpaste tube. But then we are freed and responsible to that freedom, I would say. So roll up. We have a little freedom hallelujah moment. We can bring our right hand behind our right leg and just stretch out, reaching long, pushing your hips forward. Take a full inhale with your exhale. Bring your hips back down and bring your feet together. Now in front of you, you want your heels 2 hands length away from you, but rather than reclining back into yin fish, we're going to bow forward into yin butterfly. But first, grab onto your shins, really broaden your chest, lift up your chest and drop your head. Take another full inhale, and with your exhale, start to roll down, letting your head get heavy towards your feet. Take a full inhale, sigh it out, and feel your body respond to you. The creative force in fire is always a spark of becoming. So in the Aries, we can see, if the Mars is unconscious and it's below the belt, like this is how more than half our population probably sprang into the world, where it's nearly like these forces below our autonomy, below our, connected to our unconscious, pull us and allow us to make choices. And really, the procreation can quite literally be the procreation of children. It's even said that in very ancient times of human evolution, that we were asleep to our own procreative proclivities. So even after human beings started reproducing through the creative act of sex, they weren't actually they wouldn't remember it. They weren't aware of it. It would happen during sleep. And for you and I, at first it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that would be unconscious. But then we actually start to see or notice in ourselves what part can be asleep in our own biographies or experiences of sexuality. And then you start to go, oh, okay, maybe it is possible. But then we move to the heart, and it's this, you know, reproduction of inspiration, of you know, even just the feeling of like somebody comes into the room and they are full of joy and expressive and, you know, have like nearly energy flowing off them. It lifts us. It makes us kind of stand up straighter or smile a little bit more. It brings us to life. It generates. And I think that's the beauty in also the fire and the Sagittarius. It generates this thinking world and the spark of all beginnings, really. Because while in Aries we have this like unconscious drive and beginnings of things, in Sagittarius, finally, we wake up to this idea that before anything is, the thought is first. Yeah. So even when you got dressed for this yoga class, like you had to think about what you were going to put on before you actually could put it on. And even if it, you know, like back to like the little stereotypes around signs, Sagittarius is supposedly so evolved they don't really care what they're dressed like or looked like. But I find a lot of my Sagittarian friends actually are quite like well put together and good looking. So I don't know. But that's like, you know, one of the elevator pitch stereotype things is like, oh, they are more occupied with their thought life than what their fashion expression is. But when we start to really, really grapple with this phenomena that everything has this potential of becoming in its thought, in its that's like the spark of beingness, then it feels so natural to understand that Sagittarians often are the natural teachers, wanting to expand knowledge. Of course, they also are known to want to be proselytizers, like trying to make you all agree with us. I'm not a Sagittarius yet, but I got a lot in me. Now start to roll up. And again, we're going to cross our ankles. And we're going to bring our right knee in front of our left knee. Kind of wiggle your knees a little bit closer. Let your hips sit back down. It's okay if your right knee comes way up this time. And you may even notice that you have quite drastically different hips. I mean, they're nicely matching, but they might have different flexibility. Take your hands next to your hips and just scoot your pelvis, tilt your pelvis, and walk your hands forward, soften, bowing forward, seeing how it is on this side. So, because archetypes are part of a whole, we can always find an archetype's expression in ourselves, in our body, in systems, in, you know. And so when we look at the human organs through Taoism, as we do as when we practice yin yoga, it's the liver that is connected to this archetype. And in occult physiology, you know, the liver is connected to Jupiter. And Jupiter has, it's one of the only planets other than the sun that we know of that gives more energy away than it receives. And therefore, it's really big. It's nearly a sun, but it's not quite a sun. It's not quite luminescent, but even, you know, you've seen it in the sky. Even without knowing it, you can see Jupiter. You'll notice Jupiter because it's so bright. And its expansive nature is that it has, you know, everywhere I look, it's like a different source will quote the number of moons that Jupiter has is different. I've heard 62, 64, 89, 93 was the high I heard. But still, again, it points to this expansive, generative, productive capacity of Jupiter. So even in this pose here, as we get to the tender moments of it, what thought might spark in response to the feelings in your body or in antithesis to? Can we actually even think something on purpose with intention so that we allow our thought to become the arrow that shoots from nothing to becoming? Now walk your hands back towards you and sweep your right leg back, pointing your toes straight back so your ankle isn't sickled. Maybe shifting your left knee a little bit more to the left. A good check is you can see if you can hold yourself up. Plus, you can feel like that Nike statue. And then walk your hands forward, coming into sleeping swan. Stretching from fingertip to toe tip. So even when I describe the nature of Jupiter, the qualities of Sagittarius, we can kind of associate a certain gregariousness with this, someone who is jovial and happy to meet the world and curious. And to me, it's so fitting that Jupiter is connected to the liver. You know, the liver is one of the most resilient organs, as probably you have tested once or twice. And, you know, you can lose a lot of it and it will grow back, and it can deal with things that weren't even invented when you were born or weren't even a problem when you were born that have become a problem now. It can protect you from foreign stuff. But it's been given this active verb as a name, and not in several different languages. And it is the organ that builds up our amino acid, builds up different proteins in our body. So it's actually it's a builder. It generates, it produces, protects us, produces. And in traditional Chinese medicine, it is gifted the name of the seat of the soul. And it's not the soul that lives and dies with the body, that is housed by our lungs, but it's the forever soul. It is the soul, the Hun, which is the ethereal, non-corporeal soul. In spiritual science, we would refer to that as the spirit. And we know there is an intimate connection between the liver and blood, filtering the blood, the substance in our body that is said also to carry our spirit. Mm. And to me, again, it feels like another reference back to this, the flame of our soul or our spirit, this housing of that spark that allows us to be part of the system of light. When we start to invite into our study, into our contemplation, higher knowledge, it starts to bring to life that world for us. Not so we see it and watch it like a movie, but instead it's like the reverse side of it, so that instead we find ourselves in the light of inspiration, in the, as if our inner world is, I like nearly want to say like the backside of the film, that like we're projecting, we are the screen, we are the, the making real of these ideas through our words, through our actions, through what we put our life into, what we bring to life. And then start to walk your hands back towards you and roll up, rolling back onto your seat. We need like one of those acro circle yoga mats. And then walk your hands forward. So you might just bring your hands forward and drop your chin towards your chest, or maybe you can let your elbows drop down and hold your head. Or you're lying and napping on the floor while your heel digs into your belly button. So our liver, with its fabulous verb name, to live, connected to this planet that is nearly a sun. And in the Taoist description, when our liver is suffering, the meridians or the gallbladder out, when they're out of balance, we have an unhealthy expression of anger, an imbalanced relationship to rage. It can be an inability to express it or an excess in expression. But when our liver and gallbladder is balanced, the attributes that it helps support in our relationships is kindness. Now, kindness, again, we have to have this presence and this will. You know, you be polite, you can react and you just say nice things, but to be kind, you listen to what someone is saying and you respond very specifically to that situation. You know, it's not useful to give a parachute to a drowning man. So kindness is very specific, responsive. And, you know, thinking like more, I want to say thinking softly, but thinking how kindness, like just take it into the whole picture of Jupiter, of Sagittarius, and really like, and this picture of the liver being the seat of our spirit or the seat of our soul. Okay, inhale, roll up, and then you can do a little dance. Remember, pretend you're on Hawaii, perhaps, or little fiery flames and flickers with your fingers. And then bow over your beautiful right leg, let your head drop down towards your knee. And, you know, okay, so isn't it kind that we get to reincarnate and live again? Because when we start to understand just this lofty idea of human evolution and that each one of us plays a role in it, we understand that Jupiter is becoming something more. We are becoming something more. But wow, what a kindness that we can live, you know, our cosmic day in a lifetime. And then we die to the physical manifest world and we are born into spirit. And we can do and understand and be in the world of spirit, totally different reality. And then we die to spirit and we are incarnated back into the life cycle on earth to try to be kind again, to again re-aim your arrow and shoot it, follow it, to allow, you know, to get another chance. Maybe a wee bit wiser from our last experience, but maybe not. Just dumb in a different way. We don't know, but we get to try again. We get to read another book, to go around the corner and see what's there. Now start to roll up. And we are gonna, you can just shake out your legs. Woo! Recalibrate them. You know how like a dog will get out after a nap and just shake everything? It like resets their nervous system and it works quite well for humans too. But we're gonna come to sit on our toes. So you wanna tuck your toes under. I'm finding like wood splinters just to add to the joy. Yeah, by your time. Tuck your toes under and sit back onto your heels. If you can, and you can only, if you can't do it for the whole time that we're here, you can just release it and sit on the tops of your feet. Now bring your hands to heart center. You want to bring your thumbs to your breastbone and we're going to take Anahata Mudra. So you're going to blossom your fingers out. You're going to allow from your pinky finger edge all the way down, edge of your palm, up your thumbs to be touching. So you're creating like a chalice here. And then you're going to close your eyes and you're going to take a couple breaths. And with every inhale, just feel like you're breathing in light. And with your exhale, light is just pulsing out from every part of you. You're feeling your fire underneath, like your Aries toes. Breathe into the sun of your heart. And then feel the spot right above the top of your head. Think of it as your light of your thinking. And then imagine a light about 20 meters above your head. Imagine this as your spirit. And then above that, far above that, imagine Jupiter. And then far, far, far above that, imagine the sun, the evolutionary force in the cosmos. And take a couple of breaths, bringing your attention behind your thumbs and your heart, feeling your fingers, feeling your toes. And then release your hands, bring your hands in front of you and slap out your feet. And then rock back, stretching the tops of your toes. And then you're going to cross your ankles and roll over your crossed ankles. Put your feet on the ground and just slowly and patiently roll yourself down, 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 and hug your knees to your chest. We're going to do a therapeutic twist. So bring your knees. You might have to wiggle your toes a little bit if they're still like, what did you do to me? Don't worry, it's stimulating all your lower meridians. It was like awesome little treatment there. And then stretch your left leg long while you're still hugging your right knee close. You can shift your butt to the right and then drop your right knee to the left, coming into a spinal twist here. Take a full inhale, and with your exhale, just sigh it out. Allow yourself to soften even into this final twist. So one of the places that we are in our evolution as human beings is that we're moving from the intellectual soul to the time of the intellectual soul to the time of the consciousness soul. And just like the archetypes, there's so much for each one of us to explore what that means and how we're going to experience it, and how we already experience it. But in that meditation, we are inviting our own inner life to come into personal relationship with the planet Jupiter, to really start to discover inquiry wise. What can we find out about Jupiter? But what can we find out through our own insight and understanding through, sure, reading texts and investigating what the actual planet's like it will give you insight. But just as the whole archetype, we're trying to get to know, to understand that there's something that happens that isn't just about learning the facts. There becomes a living quality that we have the freedom to meet, just like we have the freedom to meet another being, a human being, an animal being, or a plant being. We can meet the beingness of Jupiter, the planetary force of Sagittarius. So hug your knees back to center. Squeeze in, maybe lift up your face and kiss your knees. Thank you. Because you can't kiss your toes. Else I would have be kissing your toes. You might just warm them up with your hands a little bit. Wiggle this piggy. And then letting your right leg stretch out, pull your left knee closer, maybe slide your butt to the left and then drop your knee to the right. Take a full inhale with your exhale, sigh out. You know, in spiritual science, Rudolf Steiner really describes a world that is there before his description and will be long after his description. So it is a world of beingness that we, each one of us, can learn to get to know. So allowing with our spiritual yearnings and inner work, we really want to take up the discipline from Sagittarius. We want to learn. We want to understand the traditions in esoterica, the way cosmology has been handed down to us, one cosmic day after the other, generation after generation. Hug your knees back in. And let's stretch out for Shavasana. So for yin, you can always take your legs a little bit wider. And if ever your lower back is hurting, you're always welcome to take your feet as wide as the yoga mat and just let your knees drop together. You can have your palms open to receive, or if that's uncomfortable, put your hands on your belly. If you want to help relax your shoulders more, you can pop your chest up off the ground, pinch your shoulders, pull your shoulders down, and then rest your ribs down onto the ground. Close your eyes for Shavasana. Invite your awareness to the edges of your body. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. How your toes doing? Maybe wiggle your nose. And then inhale, stretch your whole body long. And with your exhale, curl into a ball, rolling onto your side if that feels good. Not doing it if it doesn't. Just feel the vibrancy in your body, in your being, your spark. And then help yourself up into a comfortable seated position. And we're going to close with a final Om. So maybe rub your hands together so you feel the heat. Feel your thumbs on your breastbone. Lift your chest up to your thumbs. Close your eyes. Maybe lift up an image of the person you dedicated your yoga practice to, or if you dedicated your yoga practice to world peace, imagine the whole earth shining. Empty your breath. Take a deep inhale. Ah. Bring your prayer hands to your third eye. Invite the divine light. And as we bow forward together, we say, Namaste. And so much love. Thank you so much.